There was one consistent thought running through my head while watching one battle after another. You can dip a turd in liquid gold, but that will never stop that gold nugget from being completely full of crap. I have had my fair share of controversial opinions over the years, but I can guarantee you that this will rank highly among my most controversial, at least in some circles. I have no doubt that this film will go down as one of the most overrated films of the year, but I'm not even trying to exaggerate here. This might be one of the most overrated films of all time. And everything boils down to a few simple things. Firstly, how easily are you propagandized? Second, was this your type of propaganda? Or lastly, are you confident enough to admit that this is propaganda when all of the institutional hack critics look you directly in your eyes and tell you that this is one of the greatest films ever made? One Battle is directed by the critically praised filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson, the guy behind There Will Be Blood, Boogie Nights, and Punch Drunk Love. He's the sort of dude pretentious film buffs will reference and your average moviegoer will know very little about. His new film follows a borderline slapstick domestic terrorist played by Leonardo DiCaprio and his absolutely obnoxious and horny, even worse domestic terrorist girlfriend played by Tiana Taylor. They are accompanied by a fully erect Sean Penn. Yes, you heard that right. Giving the dumbest performance of his life, and a slew of assorted, recognizable actors with roles ranging from incompetent feds, evil white supremacists, and heroic brown people committing crimes. If all of this sounds oddly familiar, well, yeah, it's because you've seen this 100,000 times before. This is more of the same far-left pandering we've been getting from Hollywood for years. There's just one caveat here. It's wrapped in competent filmmaking that's undercut with a very busy story and an odd comedy element that works together to disarm the viewer. This all allows those who enjoy this drivel to excuse their propaganda and gaslight you, the viewer, into thinking it's some sort of balanced, intelligent commentary. But don't fall for it. One Battle is definitely not as clever as it thinks it is, and I'm pretty sure there's an argument to be made that it has a high risk of further radicalizing real-world versions of those domestic terrorists that I mentioned, which the film not only sympathizes with, but it encourages. If I were to break this movie down quickly, it would be as follows. A crew of glorified Antifa members are followed through the years as they are hunted down by the world's most cartoonishly evil, moronic, white supremacist ICE agent as he wields the entire power of the federal government with zero oversight to hunt down and capture them because he's madly obsessed with a black chick who contradicts everything he stands for because of some kind of weird kink reason. Yeah, you heard that right. The real crux of this film is about an ICE dude who has a weird kink. Hopefully you made it this far without me ticking you off, and if I have angered you, then just hang with me for a bit here, because I feel like I need to clarify a few things. I have zero interest in having propaganda rammed down my throat from either side of the political spectrum. I would be pointing this out if the roles were reversed and it was coming from the far right. If this was some sort of hyper-fantasized vigilante film about some sort of militarized guy hunting down migrants and illegal immigrants, I would be making a video very similar, complaining about the same type of things, just from the other side of the aisle. If you were going to get political, then give it to me straight. I want the whole picture. I want it from all sides of the argument with nuance and proper context, or don't bother. I get that there was the comedy mixed in, but that's manipulative. And if you're going to do all that, then you still need to be balanced with it. This movie was not. We need that context. Now, let's go ahead and talk about how this movie could radicalize folks. Literally just days ago, we had a politically radicalized communist open fire with the intent to kill ICE agents, only to accidentally kill an illegal immigrant and injure two others before taking his own life. These sort of revolutionaries and activists are the exact focal point of who this film wants you to sympathize with, root for, and relate to. All in a time when tensions have never been higher on this specific issue, and it is clear that many mentally ill people seem to be more activated than ever, making the deceptive, glowing assessments of this film from the critic community and those assessing it seem extremely reckless. I am not saying that it shouldn't have been made or that it shouldn't come out or that it should be censored or anything like that. All I am saying is that there does need to be some honest discourse around this film and the repercussions of something like this. Now, early on, I mentioned that this movie was a gold-dipped turd. And I do stick to that. One Battle is excellently filmed with decent pacing, even though it is just shy of 3 freaking hours long. It has a score that keeps the frantic vibe of the movie chugging along. We also get solid performances out of everyone, even if I did absolutely hate several of its morally bankrupt characters. Granted, I can't personally say there were any true standouts outside of the young woman playing DiCaprio's daughter. The acting was just fine. We've seen better from most of these people. But honestly, I would expect no less than all of this from a prestige filmmaker like Paul Thomas Anderson. There is going to be a level of quality. But that's the full extent of the good in this movie. Let's get to the very obvious, wildly ignored flaws. There's some really terrible writing here, and this issue stretches across all facets of the script. There's unbelievable and unrealistic behaviors from almost every single character, conveniences and contrivances galore to help simply push the story along. Clearly manipulative depictions of specific character types made to emotionally manipulate the viewer, like painting all military and wealthy as complete idiots and making illegal immigrants and career criminals seem like poor victims. All of this is not to mention the pathetic attempts at humor, which garnered maybe one laugh out of me over its painfully long runtime, like Sean Penn walking around with a boner in a humiliation ritual, or having DiCaprio flounder around like he was one of the Three Stooges. The tonal whiplash truly does undercut the seriousness of the real-world implications of the film, especially with our current political climate. It simply comes across as tone-deaf. In short, all of this leads me to believe that One Battle's outlandishly high praise from the critics is more manipulation than a genuine assessment of the film. This is, as I mentioned before, their type of propaganda, and they are going to compromise their typically high expectations in favor of trying to convince the idiot masses to consume more of their trash in hopes of keeping the movement alive, especially as support is dwindling for this sort of messaging outside of the extreme fringes and Hollywood elites. I have only seen 2 critics out of hundreds to be honest about the divisive nature of the film on Rotten Tomatoes. Among all the institutional shills on that platform, only one man dared to name this movie as what it truly is: irresponsible. There were very few other negative reviews of One Battle. Those that are present complained that it was not radical enough, or were offended that there were jokes aimed at all towards the left. But this shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. And one of the biggest things that I've seen people point out as, oh, this is balanced, is they're even complaining about the depiction of Perfidia, the leader of the rebellion, and saying that basically it's a negative depiction and she's a black woman and they shouldn't have even done this. But that is ridiculous. Her being painted negatively does not make this movie balanced, nor is it offensive that that's how they made this character. And it does not change the fact that every other activist in this movie is painted in a positive light. I hope that if you were curious about this film and were planning to go see it, that I've given you a more clear idea of what it actually contains. I've been in far too many scenarios where the critic praise has been extremely high, only to go see something and realize that they were completely lying about everything in the film just to get me to pay for a ticket. Or maybe I'm putting out a similar opinion as you've had and you've seen this movie and just been digging around YouTube trying to find someone that's actually complaining about it. I hope now you have someone that you feel like you can relate to at least a little bit. Or if you're in that last camp of people and have made it this long, those people that were just mad and got brought in by the clickbait title or thumbnail, I hope that you can at least see and hear where I'm coming from and realize that there is another lens to view this film through, because it is controversial and I do not think that there's even any way to argue against that. Like I said, it's just about if this is your type of propaganda or not. Regardless, at the end of the day, I just want to see less of this type of crap, less of the propaganda and the politically motivated filmmaking. It's time to just get things that can bring people together instead of divide us. This whole the people versus the people thing is getting really old. At the end of the day, those in power will always win if they are able to keep us divided. What we need to do is push the industry to do better, because I can promise you, we can do so much better than one battle after another. When it comes to me and my review on Criticless, I'm probably going to give this movie like a 19% out of 100. Because it is heinous, and I'm probably going to be encouraging people to be hesitant about this movie before they watch it. And to those who enjoyed it, I guess I'm glad you had a good time, but maybe let's try to analyze things a little bit further and realize that there are people trying to put things into our brain to activate us further, and that is the last thing we need right now. But look, even if you think that I am a complete and total idiot and I am wildly off base about this film, I want you to leave your review on Criticless. We want to hear what you think. I want to hear the people that disagree with me and agree with me, because this is the type of conversations that we need, and we need to start discussing these things out in the open and being honest about the things that are being pushed in our entertainment. So go leave your review on Criticless. But everybody take it easy. It's been real. Later.